This is Evie.
This is Gomer.
I first heard the story of Gomer in college, and it made a really big impact on me because I've been a Christian my whole life. I've been to church every Sunday, and I never heard this story until I was taking an Old Testament class, and we got to the book of Hosea, and our professor told us to just sit, and he just wanted to tell the story. He didn't want us to follow along in our Bibles. He just wanted us to listen to him orally relate this very beautiful story of God's love. And I just remember scribbling down notes as fast as I could because I was so moved by him telling the story of Hosea, who was a prophet in the Old Testament. And God told him to marry a woman who was a prostitute. He married Gomer, and God used their children and their marriage to illustrate his relationship with the Israelite people. The Israelites had turned away from him and broken their covenant with him and started serving false gods and taking all of the blessings that God had offered them and basically offering all of these blessings to false gods. And God used marriage as the illustration that he was there for those people, and he made promises to those people, and they turned their back on him and betrayed him and served and loved other idols and other people and other gods. And clearly God was very heartbroken and distraught and angry about this. So he talks about listing all of the sins that the Israelites have committed and specific tribes who have turned away from him. Through this illustration, you figure out that Gomer has left Hosea and become a prostitute and actually sold herself to other men. And God tells Hosea to go find Gomer and to go pay for her and buy her back. And not just to bring her back because she's his wife, but to bring her back into a loving marriage, one that is compassionate and is forgiving. That God talks about how he will woo the Israelite people back into a relationship with them. He will pursue them even though they have left him. He goes out and finds them, and he makes the atonement for their betrayal. And he compassionately, unexhaustingly wins them back. It's not just about, I will forgive you if you quit sinning and come back to me. It's about, I want you so much that I don't care what you've done. You're mine, you belong to me, and I want you back, and I will woo you back. I will restore you to wanting to be with me.
I believe I probably first heard it in high school. And, I think it was probably a song, honestly, that first brought the story to me. And I talked to my dad about it. And it was just this amazing story that, once again, was a story of a prophet reveals so much about what Christ was planning to come and do. And that would just be another illustration of him buying us back, him sacrificing. I don't think I discovered what Gomer's name meant until you brought it up as a possible name for our child, our daughter. It was because of the story, but the name also means completion, or God will complete, God will finish. It's another promise, Just the whole story is a promise, but that name is a promise.
Hosea 2, chapter 14. Therefore, I'm now going to alert her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. And then you go down to 19. I'll betroth you to me forever. I'll betroth you in righteousness and justice, in love and compassion. I'll betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord. And then chapter 14, verse 4. I will heal their waywardness, and I will love them freely. That's not just about the Israelites. It's about all of God's people, and it's about us. And we've all gone astray. We've all turned our backs on God. We've all broken that covenant with him. And that he heals us from that brokenness, and he loves us freely. And it's not just a story about Gomer and Hosea, or just a story about God and the Israelites. It's a story about God and every person, every man, and that forgiveness and that love and that pursuit. No matter where we go, he always wants us back. We were probably sophomores in college when I did this class.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got this great name. We've been dating you 2 years now.
Yeah.
I've got this great name. We're going to have a little girl. We're going to name her Gomer. And he freaked out on me. he had spent our whole relationship coming up with things from Star Wars and Harrison Ford, and I shot them all down. So he thought he had perfect right to jump on me and forbid us to use this name. So we had plenty of arguments across the table and the cafeteria at lunchtime with our friends.
So when we knew we were pregnant with Gomer, the name had never gone away. It was something Jessica always felt really strongly about. I feel like I had warmed to it, but I know that during that time, as we had a doctor's visits and we saw sonogram pictures, at some point she just became Gomer to me, and that was her name, and her, and even especially after she was born, like there was no question in my mind that that's who she was.
I usually try to, say, well, it's a Bible name, and it's from the book of Hosea, and kind of point people in that direction, and if they ask more questions, I'll tell the story. Then most often people are very curious, or they say, oh yeah, I remember that. And I've had a few people be like, wow, thank you for reminding me of that story. I'd forgotten it.
Yeah.
I remember when she was born, the nurse, when we were filling out the birth certificate, and she asked me why we were naming her that. And so I told her the story, and she actually got tears in her eyes, and just said how she's always so glad when people give their children meaningful names. And I was very moved that somebody would appreciate the name I gave my baby.
The idea that God will complete means that you're not finished, you're not done. Your life doesn't mean that you're not throwing it, you don't have to throw in the towel.
What I always wanted when people heard Gomer's name was that they would remember the story. And it would be just an opportunity as she goes through her life and comes into contact with other people for them to either hear it for the first time or to remember a story that they forgot about, and just to be made aware that that forgiveness and that love of God is always there. And as far as the story of Gomer, just that God's forgiveness is always available to you, and He never stops wanting you back from wherever you've gone, and that it's perfectly and entirely complete. It's not a cheap forgiveness. It's a full, lasting, all-consuming forgiveness.